You're listening to Dear Strategy, where we answer all of your questions on product and business strategy. And now, here's your host, Bob Caporelli.
Welcome to another episode of Dear Strategy, where we answer all of your questions about product and business strategy. Real questions from real people in real companies, just like yours. So welcome back, strategy creators. Another great episode. We're on episode 88. We are now doing this podcast every other week, and we are filling in the weeks with the blog posts. So hopefully you are getting into that pattern with us, listening to the podcast, and then a week later on a Monday, reading the blog post that goes along with it. That helps to spread out our work a little bit here and give you something to look forward to. So as always, please keep the questions coming. Visit us at dearstrategy.net. Click on the Ask a Question link in the upper right-hand corner, and you'll be able to ask a question to be featured on the show. Again, we're at 88 questions so far, more or less, and still a lot coming in. So no end in sight, which is great. Let's go ahead and get to today's question, because there's actually two questions that I'm going to answer on today's show. So I want to get right to it. They're related, and you'll see how. So the first question I'm going to answer, and they are both from the same person, by the way. The first question is, Dear Strategy, who decides the strategy, and should it be confidential? I'll just tell you what the second question is as well, and then we'll go back to the first. The second question is, should strategy start at the top or be a product management level decision? So you can see why I'm going to be answering these kind of together, because they are related, right? Like, who owns this strategy? And I think the implication is that if the strategy is owned only at the top, then it tends to be a little bit more confidential. Whereas if it's at a product management level, maybe it's a little bit more socialized. I'm kind of inferring that a little bit, but certainly these questions are related. So I'm going to go ahead and answer them one at a time. So let's go ahead and start with the first one. Who decides the strategy, and should it be confidential? Okay. This is a passion point of mine because, first of all, we have to kind of think about what a strategy is. And sometimes we overblow the definition of that. You know, a strategy is nothing more than a plan to achieve a goal. I mean, that's basically it. And so you could have strategies at any level in an organization. You could have corporate strategies, right? Because you have corporate goals and you need a plan to achieve them. You could have product level strategies because you have product goals and you need to achieve them. You could have marketing strategies because you have marketing goals and you need a plan to achieve them. You could have operation strategies, sales strategies. You know, I can go on and on and on. And you see this term strategy used in a lot of different applications like that, right? I saw the other day somebody was talking about, what's your social media strategy? Okay, well, what that translates into is, I have a goal for social media and I need a plan to achieve it, right? So strategy happens anywhere. So when you talk about who decides the strategy, it really comes down to what kind of strategy are we talking about? Clearly, if we're talking about a corporate strategy, then the decision needs to be made at the corporate level. If you're talking about a product strategy, at the product level, a marketing strategy at the marketing level. And so I would say it's pretty much as simple as that. The strategy is owned wherever the goals are owned. And that's it, because the strategy just becomes a plan to achieve those goals. Now, I think if you read a little deeper into the question, I think really what's being asked here is, you know, if I have a product strategy and I'm a product manager and I'm supposed to own that product strategy, is it normal that people at the top are going to tell me what to do, right? They're going to do the strategy for me. And I would say that part is probably not normal, although it's more common than I'd like. You know, sometimes people at a business unit or a corporate level, they want to kind of control all the strategies in the organization. It's not healthy. And obviously in large organizations, it's near impossible, but I've seen it happen, especially in kind of medium to smaller size companies where the owners are still pretty tied to everything. They kind of built the company from scratch and now they've expanded it. They have multiple product lines, they have multiple leaders, but they can't let go of controlling every strategy in their business. And that, I would say, is a pretty unhealthy cadence. So if you're a leader of a company like that, or you're a leader like that, and you're in that kind of a mindset, I would say that needs to be shifted. So if you're a leader of a company like that and you think you're doing that, back off, right? You've hired great people to do great things for you. Let them do it. And by the way, this is really tough because once you start doing strategy for someone, people will assume that you want to do it, that you won't have it any other way, right? And so they're going to automatically stop making decisions because you're making all the decisions for them. Really, really unhealthy way to go. So if you're a leader like that, you got to back off. If you're not that leader and you're unfortunately the subject of that, right? Then talk to your leaders and try and massage their mindset to show them that, hey, I'm doing my homework. I'm following a framework. I know what the heck is going on here. Be proactive and give them your strategy. If they say no and they shoot you down and they give you no chance to talk, then look for another job, right? But in the meantime, like, don't wait for them and don't assume that they want to do it, even if they have strong personalities. Like, go ahead and put together a plan. Do your homework, follow a great framework, and make it work. That's where the benefit of following a solid, proven framework, like the one that we talk about here on the show, the one we have through Strategy Generation Company, that's going to really help you because you're checking all the boxes. You're making sure you're building strategy the way big companies build strategy. And that's going to give you a lot more credibility when you go to your leaders and say, hey, I've proactively done a strategy. They're still going to have a say. They're still going to, want to debate it, but at least you're taking the bull by the horns. And I can guarantee you that that's going to start to turn that ship away from them doing it all to, sharing the responsibilities, especially if you're a growing company in between that kind of small company and medium company mentality. So that's the answer on who decides a strategy and where it should be owned, right? Now, as far as if it's should be confidential or not, what I would tell you on strategies is that strategies themselves, if they're really done well, are never confidential. I know some people are going to argue with me. They're going to say, that's just not true. But I stick by that. And hear me out for a second, because here's what I will say is that there are always parts of a strategy that are confidential. There are actions, there are projects that are going to be confidential, right? And that's okay. But if you have a good strategy and you're executing against a good strategy, it's never confidential because you're executing against it. People can see what it is, right? And that's by design. So if my strategy is that I want to grow larger through acquisitions, I mean, okay, short of the first acquisition, probably people wouldn't know. But once I start making acquisitions, people are going to get that that's part of my strategy, right? Now, each individual acquisition may be confidential. And that's okay. Those are projects that are confidential. But the overall strategy of me growing through acquisition is not going to be confidential because I'm doing it, right? And a good example of this is like if you think of any of your, big companies, like Apple. Everybody knows what Apple's strategy is. It's not confidential. It's not secretive, right? You get what it is. It's basically, creating an infrastructure around your products that people are tied into the environment, tied into the lifestyle. It's, aesthetics, it's simplification. It's all the things that we know about Apple. They don't have to hide it because they're doing it, right? Another example is Amazon, and we talk about them a bunch of times on the show, but when they acquired Whole Foods, like, yes, that particular transaction was confidential by itself, but the strategy of them getting into food services and groceries and things like that wasn't confident. They were trying that a long time, right? They were doing the Amazon Fresh and Direct and all that with the groceries. I don't know the names of it, so I apologize to Amazon in advance, but they were executing on that strategy long before they bought Whole Foods. So anybody who looks at what they're doing can see that that was part of their play, right? They wanted to be involved in that space. Now, did we know exactly how they were going to do it? Did we know they were going to do brick and mortar versus online, whatever else? Maybe not. And so that part of it was confidential for a time. But the overall strategy of them getting into that space was really not secretive. And again, it probably shouldn't be, because if it's totally secretive, then you're not doing it. And so I would tell you that, certain actions, certain initiatives with a strategy, yes, should be confidential. But as far as the overall plan being confidential, I mean, it shouldn't be confidential for long. Otherwise, you're never going to get it done, right? So that's what I would say on that. Now, this part two, or the second question, should strategy start at the top or be a product management level decision? I think I kind of answered that in the context of question one, right? Again, strategy should sit where, I almost screwed that one up, but strategy should sit wherever the goals sit and wherever the plans to achieve those goals need to sit. So Obviously, if you are in a product management role, then yeah, you're going to have product line strategy sitting at your level. And going back to what we talked about before, if you have a manager that's being a little bit too aggressive with you, you need to proactively build a strategy and show them that you can, and then try and turn that ship a little bit. So that's how these things are interrelated. So hopefully you got the gist of that as we went on. Okay, so hopefully that's a helpful answer. Hopefully that inspires you to not only take the bull by the horns and be responsible for your own plans, but also, don't be so secretive about it. Like, execute it, make it happen. And you'll find that, even if you don't tell anybody what your strategy is, if you're doing it well, they're going to be able to tell you what it is. And that's the sign of a really, really good strategy. So if you're interested in learning more about some of the services that we can provide through Strategy Generation Company, go visit us at strategygeneration.com. We offer workshops and we offer what we call inspiration, which is all kinds of tools and resources. We offer strategy creation services. So we have, development services and strategy systems. And we also have new assessments that we've just put online. So go check us out at strategygeneration.com. I know you'll find a lot of great things there for you or your companies. To help you become more strategic in everything that you do. Also, don't forget to visit our website for this podcast, dearstrategy.net, and visit our blog at dearstrategy.net/blog. And all those resources are out there for you to enjoy and take advantage of absolutely free. So we hope you'll do that. While you're doing that, don't forget to make time for the plan. We'll see you back here on another episode of Dear Strategy. Thanks for joining.
Thank you for listening to Dear Strategy with Bob Caporelli. To learn more or to submit a question to be featured on our show, please visit us at dearstrategy.net.